This is Mortal Kombat X, aka I guess Mortal Kombat XL was what I was playing. We're on Xbox Series X, so this game retains its original Xbox One release details. That includes a sub 1080, I guess it's a bit dynamic to some degree, and a 60 FPS target, which I guess is the important part, and yeah, it delivers on the smoothness during gameplay, at least from what I saw. There is no auto HDR support in the game, so keep that in mind, but yeah, this is the brutal Mortal Kombat X. This is where we get some intense X-ray fatalities and a wide range of modes and options for battling one another with a varied cast of characters that were unique, dynamic, and then the DLC characters were also cool, but I don't have any of them present, so I can't really showcase them off. But yeah, they had things like Alien was in here, they had some cool horror characters, they had some fun with the roster, that's certainly a thing for sure. So this is kind of an interesting entry in the series because it was, I guess you could say, a bit earlier gen in comparison to 11, which sort of released, towards the end of the generation. So it's kind of cool to see, I guess you could really say, the progression of the Mortal Kombat series from the beginning of the gen to the end of the gen. Now, it wasn't right at the beginning, it came a little bit afterwards. But what I'm saying is it's neat to see such a change between, the releases within the games, because I think Mortal Kombat 11 looks absolutely insanely stunning in comparison to this one. Oh, and there's loading here too. Not to say this is a bad looking game, it's got like a neat sort of gritty, intense style to it, and the combat kind of looks cool. But I'm just saying, you can really see the change in like the visuals and the environments and the technology at play, especially with the moves and the combat system. It's really interesting to have seen kind of this evolution between the games, especially when you compare this to the fact that, throwing in Injustice 2 in the middle of it and seeing this sort of, upgrade and change between the games over time. It's sort of fascinating, at least I think so. So this is Mortal Kombat X, the, well, not latest, but, an entry that was very recent in regards to the experience and the combat of the game. This continues the story, and once again, attack on Earth Realm and everything like that, and battle through time. And there's like a pretty intense, well, not time, but you get the realms and stuff like that. So it's another entry that continues the story, and you fight with the characters. There's sort of an expansive sort of scenario depending on where you play, what you work through. And then on top of that, you've got all these additional modes. There's like 24 playable characters, 9 added through DLC, and you get some guest ones and stuff like that. So you got like for DLC, there's like Predator and Alien and Jason Voorhees and Leatherface. So some like fun kind of different characters, and I think that kind of keeps it rather interesting. And then you've got your different modes, and there's also like this faction system too that you kind of get into right off the bat, where you're kind of earning things, and it's interconnected to other elements of the experience. And then there's tower modes and different challenges, and there's gameplay and graphic and story, and it was pretty successful. I think it delivered a lot of content for fighting. And then you've got the intense X-ray special moves, and it's kind of like really break down, I guess you could say, the characters, and really, well, you've been seeing some of that. It's like these crazy stylized, like bone-breaking things where you'd see everything shatter inside the characters, which is kind of intense. But you also get these really cool environments. Like, I think there's a decent amount of arenas that you battle in with some fairly still, like, I want to say breathtaking backdrops. Like, I think this one here actually just really looks quite majestic. And then, like, I guess the one that follows it, there's a nice use of environment for combat. So you can kind of like bounce off of things, you can sort of interact with stuff and throw them at people. I think there's one part where you throw like an old grandma, and I actually got like an achievement for doing that. I was like, that's pretty funny. And then there's the energy meter that you use divided into sections for combats, and stamina bar under the health bar. And they've got some interesting, oh wow, that looks pretty intense, ways that you can kind of battle or cast the characters, different costumes and stuff, where it's changing the look to a degree as well. And there's brutalities of the full combat of Mortal Kombat, and just lots of ways to compete, and different kinds of battles if you want to face off with other people. It just offers a wide range of different modes and, you know, scenarios for combat and battle, and I'm just kind of showing off a selection of, you know, fights between the different characters and kind of giving you an idea of how it's running and how it's looking. Obviously with difficulty options and a large choice between who you want to battle with, and you know, it's expansive. It's a Mortal Kombat game. It's a modern era Mortal Kombat game too, which is kind of interesting to think about, just because there have been so many releases in the series over the years. And it's neat to see really the adjustments, especially coming from, you know, freshly from Mortal Kombat 11, going backwards kind of. You're like, okay, you could see a lot of the subtle boosts and improvements between the entries. That's kind of fascinating. Again, with the characters, and this one kind of having a little bit of a different roster, I guess you could say. And then you've got like the neat player v player, whether you're doing that locally or online. They're kind of mixing things up. And like I had talked about, the faction wars is kind of a neat, persistent online element to the experience. If that's something extra you want to have goal-wise to work towards. Oh, this was just brutal, like the face punches there. That was just crazy. I think this may be the part with the old lady there. I've seen her. I'm just seeing her outlined. Yeah, through it's a little bit funny. But yeah, it's got a neat story. You know, there's a neat setup. It's got lots of content that you can play with, and it's kind of the, I want to say like the full version of Mortal Kombat X, right? That's why they throw the XL on there and make it all intense. But it was well received. It brought some good combat elements to it. I think it evolved the franchise in some interesting ways. It was fairly successful. And of course, obviously spawned a follow-up down the road. And this one's kind of just a neat entry, I guess, if you want to get something that, I don't know if it's more brutal, but I think the gritty kind of, you know, look kind of appeals a little bit more to the blood splatters. They're definitely not as, like, insanely fast-flowing as they are in the most recent entry in the series, but still quite fantastic. And I think generally just a good game that runs a lot faster, a lot smoother. It's got cool moves, it's got a cool cast of characters, many different ways to battle and, you know, attack one another if you want to. And then, of course, lots of different things to learn move-wise if you want to be more effective and be able to deliver better in the, you know, the combative field of play. It's really up to you. I think they got a good varied cast, good set of arenas, like a decent set, some nice DLC options, environments that are, you know, a little bit more dynamic. Obviously, I don't know if they'd really be as dynamic, I would think, in comparison to 11. Like, they still have a lot of the same base movements and mechanics for how you flow through them and attack and use the environment. But I just feel that 11 kind of amped that up a little bit more. But I know some folks wanted to see this in action, so I hope you enjoyed, and the rest of the gameplay just really enjoy, because I don't really have much else to say in regards to the presentation here. I mean, it's Mortal Kombat X, a lot of modes, a lot of ways to battle, a lot of characters to battle with, DLC characters if you want more action, and just really a good-looking Mortal Kombat that flows well, plays very smoothly on the platform, and delivers the carnage and the intense bone-breaking moves that you'd like to see. But the bone-breaking moves are a little lower res than I would have liked, I guess. You know, you can kind of notice that. But I think particle effects-wise and stuff, this does hit the mark for Mortal Kombat as being really, really intense and action-packed.
All in a day's work. Jax wins.
You ready for this? Wearing your extra strength denture cream? Witty repartee. Check.
Round 1. Fight.
Don't take it personal.
Round 2. Fight.
I'd frame that.
Johnny Cage.
We sense the dead with your sword.
My warrior ancestors.
We will have them.